Karen. So tēnā koutou katoa, nau mai haere mai to this session about Duncan Cotterill. Ko tēnei taku mihi ki ngā mana whenua o te rohi nei ko nai tuahuriri, ka mihi hoki au ki ngā tohu o te rohi nei. So that's just a quick shout out, respect, acknowledgement to the mana whenua here in Christchurch, nai tuahuriri, and the important landmarks of the region. Buluvinaka, talofa lava, maloa lele, and warm Pacific greetings. My name's Nell. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a career consultant with the UC Careers team who brings you all of these events in collaboration with the UC Events team. So we're really happy to have you all here. At UC Careers, we can help you with everything from figuring out what your dream job might be, right through to successfully securing employment, both while you're studying and when you've finished your degree. So come and see us anytime. So we've got 40 minutes for this presentation from Duncan Cotterill today. And then we'll have 10 minutes for questions afterwards, but please feel free to just pop any questions in the chat as they arise, and we can address those and come back to them at the end of the session. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about Duncan Cotterill. So welcome to Kirsten. We've got also Nick and Madeline joining us as well this morning. So thanks for being here, team. Pass it over to you, Kirsten.
Great, thanks very much, Nell, and morena to everybody that's joined us this morning. Thanks very much for joining to hear a bit about Duncan Cotterill and our summer clerk program. So what I'm going to sort of kick off this morning with is just to touch on a bit about the firm and who we are, and a wee bit about our program, but also just to share some insight into what we look for when we start to screen and shortlist through our candidates' applications. And then I'll be passing it over to Nick Mates and Madeline Barker, who are who have come through our summer clerk program and are now and our graduate program for that matter, and are now in their second year. They've finished their first year as a lawyer, so they'll be able to give you all an insight into life as a lawyer and from their perspective. I'm sure their session will be much more interesting to you than mine, but hopefully everyone can see my screen. I'm just going to take you through a series of slides and then hand you over to Madeline and Nick. So just to kick off, a bit about Duncan Cotterill. So whoops. So the firm has 5 offices across New Zealand. We've got a recently new office, a small office in Queenstown, and then we've got an office here in Christchurch, which has around 120 people. We've got a smaller office in Nelson of around 30 people, and then we have another office in Wellington, which is around 50, and then another office in Auckland, which is around sort of 70 or 80. So we're definitely a firm that's growing across the firm in all of our offices, and we've got 46 partners. So a really big partnership, and we're close to sort of number 2 in terms of numbers of people working in a law firm across New Zealand. So definitely one of the bigger firms in New Zealand. And we're coming up to, I think last year, just late last year, we hit the 300 mark in terms of the number of partners and employees we've got at the firm. We work for a number of different companies, ranging from 30 plus and listed on the Australian or New Zealand Stock Exchange. So we work with those sorts of companies right through to small and medium-sized companies and businesses, through to mums and dads, private clients. So a broad spectrum of clients that we look after, and we've intentionally kept our client base that way, rather than focusing simply on corporate clients as such. So The other aspect is that the firm is a member of Terralex, which is a global network of firms. What that means is that when we need to maybe refer work to another jurisdiction in another country, we can tap into that group of firms, and likewise we get work referred back similarly. So that's a great opportunity for our lawyers to get involved in some of that global work as well. In terms of the actual HR team, currently it looks like this, and there's a couple of new members to join, but I'm the manager of the team, and then in Auckland we've got Michaela, and Amy is a new member of the team who's based here in Christchurch. And what we're recruiting for this coming round is summer clerk and graduate roles, so those being the upcoming summer for 22 and 23, and then new graduates to start in 2023. At this stage, we're just looking for graduate positions in our Christchurch office. That may change, but for now, that's where our focus is. So we primarily will be recruiting summer clerks, and our summer clerk program across the firm has 2 rotations, one pre-Christmas, so roughly about 6 weeks before Christmas, and then 6 weeks after Christmas, where you'd rotate through 2 different teams, whether that's a commercial or litigation team. In some of our offices, we have got more specialist teams, so you might rotate through employment as well, or in Christchurch, we also have an RM, resource management team too. So each will be slightly different depending on the office and the different practice areas that we have in those offices. So before you start the process of thinking about applying, last year we had over 700 applications. So, you know, which is, you know, it's great to have a number of that sort of number be interested in applying for the firm. But what that means and why this session is important is how do I make myself stand out in amongst those 700. The summer clerk period runs, as I mentioned, sort of late November to early February, and our applications open on the 10th of March through until the 28th of March. We're going to be starting our first round interviews around the 19th of April, and then there'll be a second round interview process as well, which will be late April and early May. At this point, we're still working through how our interview process might work, but some of them may need to be held over Zoom or MS Teams, and some may be able to take place face-to-face, but we'll just see how the rest of the COVID situation pans out as we work through that process. So in terms of some things for you to think about, is just sort of think about who you're applying to and what are they actually looking for as part of their recruitment process. As I mentioned, when we do have the volume of applications at once, you do want to think about how I might be able to make my application stand out. We are all unique, so there is something to think about before you prepare your application as to what is unique about me that might interest the people I'm applying for. We do look for well-rounded people. All firms look for something different, and even each of our offices will look for slightly different things as well. So make sure that you're honest in your application. Don't try and say you're something you're not, and think about the type of legal career you want. Is working in private practice actually what you want, or are you more suited to an in-house or a government policy writing role? So do think about the type of career you do want and the type of firm you want to work for, because we are all different. Not everyone necessarily suits large firms or even small firms. So think about and explore and do a bit of research into the type of firm you might want to work for, or what might suit you and your style and personality. And so do your research. Okay. Yeah, so I touched on the research side. Do your research. Think about the type of firms that fit with either your values or what you might talk to some lawyers in some of those firms or just within your own networks. And then understand what their application process is. Some firms are all largely doing this sort of recruitment at the same time, but there will definitely be some firms that don't go with the the bulk of the firms. They might go later in the year. So make sure you're alive to the different times that each of the firms might be recruiting for and when they do advertise. And then make sure you're diarising when those key dates, particularly around opening and closing, and making sure you meet those deadlines. When we've got applications in the numbers around the 600 or 700 mark, it's really difficult for us to make compromises around people that might have missed deadlines, because there are so many other more candidates that actually have met your deadline and are able to work to a timely manner. So that's all part of our assessment. And we have to draw the line somewhere. So you don't want to be missing your deadline, because it's not setting yourself up for success. So in terms of your cover letter, this is actually a really important part of your application. Many partners will look at the way in which you write, and so don't overlook this or this part of the process. Do keep it short, so not too long, and no more than one page. Make sure you're addressing your letter to the right person, and set out what you're looking for, what really interests you. Make this the individual part of your application, because the CV can become, dare I say it, a bit more generic, but this is where you can add some creativity to catch the attention of those that are shortlisting or screening your application. Keep your language positive, and I think it's important not to necessarily repeat what you might have read on the firm's website, but it is still important that you have read the website to understand a bit more about that firm. Keep your language simple, so don't try to avoid sort of the common cliches or even legalistic, old-fashioned. Use plain English language. And I think what's really important, and I don't know how many times I see it, and it's not just in graduate applications, but it does appear more commonly, but receiving applications that are addressed to another firm. One, it doesn't sit that well that you're addressing it to the wrong firm, but two, it shows your attention to detail, and attention to detail is one of those key points in a lawyer. Doesn't matter what level you are, but attention to detail is such an important part of being a successful lawyer, that so you do take the time to get that part right. And make sure you've got that balance between being enthusiastic through to being assertive and confident in your letter. In terms of your CV, look, there are a range of different templates out there. Do try and keep it to no more than sort of three pages. And there's just some suggestions on this slide as to what you might have on the first page. Around your education, your academic achievements, and what you're involved in. And then in page 2, some of your work history, what you like to get up to outside of your studies and your life and your personal life, and who might be your references. It's really useful to sometimes think about your layout in terms of using columns, bullet points, so it's simple and easy to read. Don't try and squash too much on just to get it onto the 2 pages. So think about your font size and that it's readable, and that you've got sort of some nice white space as well in the visual, just so that it's easier reading. Photos. We often get asked the question about, should I include a photo or not? There's no right or wrong answer to that. When you're reading through up to 600 or 700 CVs, it's often useful to have something that captures your attention, or you're able to recall a particular candidate. So a photo can often be useful, but if anything, there's no hard and fast rule about using a photo or not. But if anything, please use a photo that looks professional rather than something where you might be lying on the beach or out with friends celebrating or at a party. So just think about the photo that you are using and that it's a respectable professional photo, considering the role that you're applying for. All right, so just to wrap up my session, yeah, as I mentioned, do your homework and don't leave it to the last minute. Start thinking about it now and prepare for what you want to put into your CV. As I mentioned, don't regurgitate everything that you read on our website and try and cram that into your cover letter. That's the opportunity for you to stand out and put into your cover letter a bit more about who you are personally that might not otherwise go into, say, your CV. Use someone like Now in your career service to perhaps sense check your cover letter and CV. They obviously are busy people, but so again, I wouldn't leave that to the last minute. And but they are also good, I guess, people to give you some expert advice in that space as well. So I've covered off sort of the applications, but yeah, we want to hear from everyone between the 10th and 28th of March. Please don't leave it to the 28th of March. Otherwise, thank you for your time this morning. Hopefully some of what I've shared with you does give you an insight. I think it's really important though to understand that everyone does have a different, does look for different things in their candidates, will look for different things in CVs and cover letters. So it's not always a hard and fast rule. I've just given you some key guidelines as to what I know in a general sense as to what will help set you up for success. So all the best and good luck with your application. I'm now going to hand you over to Nick and Madeline, and they're going to give you a bit of an insight into their journey, and I'll hand you over to Nick to start with.
Perfect. Thank you, Kirsten. So good day, everyone. My name's Nick, and I've just finished my graduate year here at Duncan Cotterill in Christchurch in the commercial team. And so I studied at UC, did a LLB and BCom there. And today I'm just going to give you a few sort of insights into the summer clerkship side of the program that DC offers. So Madeline and I were quite fortunate to do 2 summers with DC before starting as grads last year, so we did that in our 3rd and 4th year, which was really fun, really cool experience to get that sort of taste of that commercial life while still at university. So during my 2 summers, as Kirsten mentioned, the summer clerkship is based on a rotation structure. So I had a taste of having a look at the litigation side of some of the firm's practices and the resource management team, and then also rotated in some of the commercial teams here in Christchurch. So I rotated in the commercial private client team and then also the corporate team, which I'm a member of today. So I suppose my talk today, I've broken it into sort of 3 key sort of characteristics and things I got out of the summer clerkship, and those are, first of all, the work experience, and then also the learning experience, and then also the people and support side of DC that sort of filters through when you're as a summer clerk. So in terms of the work as a summer clerk, the main thing that stood out to me was the variety of work that you can get here. And it is a really unique opportunity to try different areas that you might be interested in and get a taste of different practice areas. And it's a great opportunity to see sort of where you can see yourself developing in the future. And as Kirsten mentioned, there is a great variety of clients as well. So you might deal with private clients, and then also some of those like larger corporations. You get a really good mix. And I suppose another aspect of the work that I found really useful, that it's very hands-on work. So straight from the outset, you're sort of immersed into whatever the team is doing at the time. And a great thing about being a summer clerk at DC is that most of your work, or a lot of your work actually, is very client focused. So you can see yourself really contributing to the broader goal of whatever the team is working on at the time. So as an example of that, when I was in the resource management team at that time, they were going through the process of a court hearing, and I was looking at a bit of an aspect of the argument that was being proposed, and sort of delivered some research on that front, and then went to court to see the partners and the solicitors deliver that. And you can actually see some of that insights that you delivered come through, which was like really cool from being a university student over summer to sort of see that come through, which was quite rewarding, I found. And then also on the commercial side, I found that the partners really like to get you involved in things very early on. So like you might look at an agreement, for example, for a partner, then you can go to discussion about it, and then you would be brought into the client meeting, and then you would go through it with the client. So it's really nice to have that context and being able to contribute and see that come through to form those real tangible solutions for the client, which I thought was really, really well executed, and from DC's perspective to see that come through as a summer clerk. And I suppose now being on the flip side as being just finished our first year, the work as a summer clerk is definitely very similar to what you get as a junior lawyer starting as a graduate. So it's really cool to get that that experience and really find out whether sort of this is the sort of practice areas you want to develop in, or that sort of thing. So yeah, no, it was really good to see work being valued as well. So I suppose the second thing that I jotted down for my talk here was the experience side that you develop as a summer clerk. I found the things you can learn in a week at DC coming out of our university is quite large. Like you can learn a lot in a short amount of time, even from the hard legal side of things and to the more softer skills side of like how to like communicate nice and clearly and be analytical in your thinking and that sort of thing. And that sort of thing you can only really get a taster of at university. It's not until you sort of step into the real world, if you will, to sort of get a taste of that, which I found really rewarding. And I suppose one of the biggest thing for me as a summer clerk and now a graduate is sort of the people in the firm, and then also the support that everyone gives you here. So it's great in the summer clerk program to get a taste of the rotation aspect, because you sort of see how different teams work, and there's a wide ranging sort of practice areas within the firm. And it's cool to sort of see how different team dynamics work and how different skill sets work between teams. So the rotation in the summer clerk program is like a really cool aspect for that. And the main thing as well is that everyone's very supportive here, in the sense that you'll be delivering, so you'll get a taste of doing some very sort of good client work. But then also you feel supported throughout to make sure that, you know, you can ask questions and make sure that you feel comfortable in everything you're doing as well, which is really awesome. And a few sort of other features of the support system here at DC is, as a summer clerk, you'll have a buddy, which I found really helpful. So a buddy would be someone who is sort of a junior lawyer, maybe 1 or 2 years into their career, and they have sort of gone through the process that you are in at the moment. So they'll sort of take you under their wing and make sure you're all feeling comfortable and settling into the team and enjoying what you're doing, which I found really helpful. And they offer a good sounding board for questions you might have about how they're going and how they've found the first sort of early stage of their career. And another aspect of the support system here is peer group. So at DC, we have a peer group of law clerks, solicitors and senior solicitors, and also summer clerks who sort of jump in and join us, which is really good. So we meet fortnightly and just sort of catch up and make sure everyone's sort of going well, and it's a really good way to sort of expand your network and make some really good friends within the firm that might be in different teams. So yeah, and then there's also the social side of the firm. So there's social sports teams. Madeline and I are members of Duncan Soccer Ball, our indoor football team. We won't reveal the scores of our games, but no, it's really good to sort of have that experience and that social side of like sporting things outside of work as well. So like it's a really good a group of lawyers here at DC. So I suppose sort of just wrapping up from my end. So a day in the life as a summer clerk, it could be very wide ranging and action packed, I would say. So it could range from going to client meetings, going to court visits, having team events as well. So the team are very supportive for summer clerks coming in, to making sure they feel welcome and supported, because they understand that, you know, this is a very new experience for everyone. So for the summer clerks, so there's a lot of support there. And yeah, so then your day could range from attending peer group events or playing social sport in the evening. So yeah, no, so from my end, I really encourage everyone to apply. It's a really good firm. So Mel and I have sort of been around here for it, even though we've just finished our first year. We've sort of had that taste of being a summer clerk a few times, which has been really awesome. So really encourage everyone to sort of get involved and apply for the program. Yeah, so I might pass over to Madeline now to sort of speak a bit more about the graduate side.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So as Nick said, I clerked with him for 2 summers, and I studied at UC as well, and I did a Bachelor of Arts as well as laws. And yeah, I guess just during uni, I really didn't know what I wanted to do and didn't really think too hard about the end, because it was quite far away doing a double degree. But yeah, I was lucky enough to get a clerkship into my 3rd year. And yeah, that was just a great experience, because it really informs what you do want to do once you finish your degree. And it's such a different type of work than anything you do at uni. So it's often quite hard when you are studying to decide what career you want to take when you have no idea how working in private practice is. So yeah, definitely encourage everyone to apply for summer clerkship, because yeah, it's really, really good. So yeah, I think I just want to start talking about the opportunities that you can have as a graduate. So I'm in the commercial team, but it's such a broad team that Nick and I are both commercial, but still in sort of separate teams. And even though you're in a set team, you can easily get involved with other things. So I regularly talk to the litigation team and resource management and family team, and even between different offices. I was speaking to someone in the Wellington office yesterday who specialises in intellectual property, and done a bit of work with some of the litigation staff up in Nelson. So yeah, it's great having all the different offices, and you can really get a different view on lots of different topics. And yeah, as well as I guess internal opportunities, there's also Law Society seminars. So they had one on accounting, which was actually really handy. Having done an arts degree, I had no idea about anything to do with accounts, so that was great, because that does come up a lot. And yeah, that was really good. And we also attended a residential transactions workshop, which was Law Society as well, and that's really good because it's a group with I think there was maybe 40 of us, and we were all first year solicitors around Christchurch, and you get to just really go through really slowly sort of what you have been doing at work, but you get time to ask questions. And yeah, it's a great way to meet lots of other young lawyers. And so Duncan Cotterill paid for us to go to that, which is really great, a great opportunity. And yeah, it's just a good way to meet lots of other people, especially when you see people's names and emails around Christchurch, and then to actually meet them is really nice. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities like that. And then within the firm, there's also events called Lunch and Learn. So before COVID, they used to be almost every Tuesday, and so that would be when someone in the firm would come and present at lunchtime, and yeah, everyone can come in and take notes, and you get lunch as well, and you just sit there and listen to whatever they're presenting about. And it's a good way, especially when there's new cases that have come out, or there's new legislation that's being passed, or if someone's just working on something quite interesting to get an insight into that. And it's a good way to know, again, what each different team does and where the resources are if you need them throughout the firm. And then, just in terms of insights I've gained from being a graduate, the first few months are really, really tiring. So I guess that's just full-time work in general, especially, going from university where it's tiring, but you do have flexibility, and then coming into work where it's sort of quite set hours, you do get very tired. But I found it really surprising the first few weekends when I just had this sense that I should be doing something, because you have that for 5 years where you think, oh, I could be doing this, I could be doing that. And just the first few weekends, I just had to stop and think, I actually have free time. And yes, and after 5 p.m. as well, the evenings are yours. So that's a really great side of working. And then what surprised me about Duncan Cotterill was just how everyone is really approachable, and you're always able to ask to be involved in different types of work if you want. And like I was saying before, there's so many different teams and lots of different people with different insights. And especially if people have come to the firm from elsewhere, like my workmate just spent the last 12 years in Kuwait in the Middle East. So there's always a lot of interesting bits of knowledge you can get from other people and different work you can be involved with. And I guess as well, what surprised me is not knowing too much about law firms and sort of being at university when there was a bit of a reshuffle in the legal profession. I was really surprised how there's not really a strong sense of hierarchy at all. It's very, everyone's really approachable, and I've never ever felt that I couldn't approach someone or ask someone anything. So that was a really nice surprise, because I guess law firms have quite kind of an image that they're quite structured, but I did not find that at all with Duncan Cotterill. And another thing that surprised me was just how different working is to what you study at university. I don't think I've touched case law since I've started, and it's a lot more sort of practical things. And lots of different types of paperwork and deeds and things that you don't really have any idea about while you're studying. So that's, again, why a clerkship's quite useful, and it's stuff that you do touch on in profs. But having a clerkship's really handy. You sort of, you get that foundation of knowing how things actually work in practice, which is quite good. And then, I guess another thing that surprised me was even just between different regions, how much things can differ. So, for example, being here in Christchurch, there's still quite a lot of EQC matters, especially I do a lot of property work, and even though it's been 10, 11 years since the earthquakes, there's still a lot of stuff coming up with that, and assigning lots of things to new owners of properties and whatnot. So it's quite interesting how even just your location within New Zealand can really impact what type of work. And so when we started last year, we had a graduate induction, and so this was in March last year. So we were lucky enough to have all the graduates from all our offices be in Christchurch together. So I think this year that'll be happening online, but next year probably in person again. But that was a really great way to meet lots of all the other grads from around the country. And everyone's obviously quite got similar interests, but then having been to different universities and being from working in different offices, it's a really good way to know people in other offices. So if you do need to contact them, you can put a face to the name. And the induction was really good, and I think it was about 2 or 3 days in total, and you just sort of go through everything you need to know, and a lot of the kind of etiquette side and practical side of things that you wouldn't think about otherwise, and you can ask lots of questions, which is good. And at the end, we went out for dinner with the CEO and some of the partners, and that was really fun, because it was just a nice way to get to talk to everyone without sort of the formality of being in an induction setting. So that was really great. It was also good to get to know the other grads, especially when we went into lockdown in about August. We had a big group chat on Teams with all of us. And so someone in the Wellington office would say, oh, I'm really slammed with work. Can anyone do this for me? And then someone in our office would say, oh, yeah, I've got some capacity. So it was a good way to kind of delegate even between ourselves. yeah, so that was really good. And then I guess in terms of development, you really do get out what you put in. So continuing to ask questions, no matter how stupid they are, or you think they are, and just researching things you don't know. So for example, my first day as a clerk, I'd just finished 200 levels and I did not really know anything. Yeah, and I just remember being asked about debt securities and figuring out all the stuff to do with debt securities. And the first thing I did when I got to my desk was I just Googled what is a debt security, because there's so many things you just don't know. And it's, yeah, people understand that you don't know that, because I think before I started, I was quite worried that there's so much you don't know, but people expect you not to know. And yeah, everyone's available to help, and yeah, you just continue to learn. So just keep pushing, and yeah, it's good. It's very good. So yeah, it's a really great environment to develop your skills, and yeah, and all the social aspects that Nick said as well. Yeah, so I guess that's all I have to say, really. And yeah, I guess for a day in the life, each day is very different. So you could have just lots of different things pop up at once, or you could hear back from things you've been chasing up for a while. So you really don't know what's going to happen and what kind of work you're going to be involved with. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
Great, thank you, Nick and Madeline. That was really insightful, and I'm sure a lot of the students out there enjoyed hearing how your time at DC has gone. So thank you for that. That's all the we were going to cover off today. So more than happy to hear from anyone around any questions they might have.
Great, thanks, Kirsten, Nick and Madeline. That was really interesting to hear. Just while the audience is thinking of any questions they might have, just wanted to say it sounds like a really nice place to work at Duncan Cotterill. Sounds like a really nice collaborative, professional, down-to-earth kind of a work environment. So really nice to hear. And Madeline, thanks for your little story about Googling debt securities. I think it's something that we hear a lot from students, that they feel really anxious that they're going to be expected to go into a job and know 100% of the role from day one and just hit the ground running and do it unsupervised and with no sort of support. But so we're often telling students that no, employers know exactly sort of what to expect with new grads. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Clearly you guys have given a really good summary of Duncan Cotterill.
That's great. Look, if anyone has any questions, my email is there. We also have a Facebook page that in our website. Yeah, if anyone does, then feel free to touch base and ask questions. More than happy to help with that. And our applications will go through that website there too. So keep an eye out on our Facebook page for a reminder about the applications opening. I guess one thing we forgot to mention was actually quite important, is we've actually just recently won the top 100, won the legal section anyway, in terms of the best graduate program for law firms. And so that just got announced late last week. So we were pretty proud to win that award, which is a second year in a row. And I guess it just sort of reinforces some of the messages that Madeline and Nick both had in their presentation as to why we probably won that. So yeah.
That's great. Just again, just while the audience might be thinking of some questions, I'm just wondering, how many summer clerks and graduates do you take on each year?
Yeah, so that's a good question now. So this coming next week, our graduates for 22 start, and we've got 10 around the around the different offices. Last summer, the summer just wrapped up. We had 12 summer clerks, so that's roughly how our numbers are. It can vary, but yeah, so that's broadly. So we'll be looking again at similar numbers.
And so when the graduates, they do like a graduate program. So what happens when they've finished that graduate program?
Yeah, so it does vary across our different offices. So in Christchurch, you come into a team as a graduate on a permanent basis, so there's no rotation. But in our other offices, the graduates can sometimes still continue to rotate. So you definitely rotate at the summer clerk level in all of the offices, and then at the graduate level, you may go into a permanent role or you may rotate. So it's slightly different at that graduate level, subject to the office.
Cool. Thanks, Kirsten. Well, no questions have come through. So as I say, you gave a really comprehensive overview. And yeah, as I say, I got an impression of a really nice sort of down-to-earth, collaborative, professional work environment. So it just sounds really nice. So I think we will leave it there. And for those who are listening in on the online live session or who might be looking at the recorded session, you can see Kirsten's email address there, and as Kirsten said, find them on Facebook, go onto their website if you do have any questions. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thanks Kirsten, Nick and Madeline for your time today.
No problem, thanks everyone.
Have a great day everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.